No, I was just the kid yelling. All right, so we're at the Grand National Truck Show again, and this time we are with Juan Trevino from Relaxed Atmosphere. And obviously that's the club that I'm in, so we've known each other for a long time, even though you forgot my name for the first few years I knew you.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I just remember that now as well.
I would just shake his hand and be,
Hey,
John, I think you said John a couple times.
And then the mulligan stuck.
Yeah,
the mulligan.
yeah.
Once we got to mulligan, we're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you've been in the truck world for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Kind of come up more in the LA area and that side of it versus, like, I know back in the late 80s, 90s, you saw like the South Bay and Orange County stuff.
Right.
He was on the LA side a little bit. So maybe you guys want to talk a little bit about kind of the differences or similarities between the two styles back then a little bit.
Metal flake versus pastel pink.
Something like that. I think the LA, we've always referred to it as LA style, and I'm not gonna. It was kind of a derivative of the VW guys and the Lowrider guys.
Right. Yeah. Right.
The 80s, I saw there was, and I always like to look back at this. There's a little bit of there was a transition,
right?
Where, and not to put it with the ethnicity or anything, but depending on where you grew up, that's how it happened.
Whatever your
so the
culture or
Volkswagen
influence,
guys,
coming through.
They didn't follow the Cal look of the Volkswagens, right?
Yeah.
Like they would shave stuff.
Right.
We actually just did, if you go check out the Volkswagen episodes, it was Cal look and Cal style.
Cal style.
So Cal style was the guys from the Dukes,
yes,
Jaime Lopez, Renee, and it had a little more accessories, had some more chrome on it.
I have a good friend that goes by VW Kid.
Robert.
Yeah, and he tells these stories that were amazing, and he actually reached out to me back in the early stages of Facebook and says, hey, he goes, I see you keep posting these pictures of the trucks with the Porsche alloys.
Right.
And honestly, it was a little short period of time that everybody followed that regimen of the Porsche alloys, kind of stock
chrome
trucks,
fender trim.
but we would get the truck. You remember the trucks were very base model. You
right.
remember that, right?
Yes.
I mean, literally, if you wanted the antenna or the second mirror, it was
no,
an
you had to
option.
check it off. Yeah.
So for us, it was like, hey, I got the chrome mirrors, I got this.
I got all the options.
Which, if you look back at the guys, the early lowrider guys, the Dukes guys, like that stuff,
right.
with those
the bombs,
they love the accessories, right?
Yeah.
They love all that. That's a big thing for them, right?
all the upgrades, all the options.
I can sum this up real fast. The guys from, let's say, the West Side, South Bay, even all the way down into Orange County, they would buy the base model 720. Mm-hmm. The guys from Whittier, they'd buy the ST.
Yeah.
And STs were a big deal because STs was like, obviously, Nissan's,
top trim model,
right?
Yeah.
But the tailgate was different.
Yes.
The seats, it had bucket seats.
Yes.
That were cloth. They weren't vinyl. It had carpet on the floors. So it had, and I think the LA style guys went more towards that.
Yes.
Because the West Side guys went after, hey, I want less is more, and I want to try to, and I want to do my own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
There was this club, California's Finest.
Yes.
And they were, to me, that was the epitome of like, oh, this is really like taking it to this other level where these trucks meant a lot to them, and it was part of like it was a persona. They dressed the same, they all looked the same, and to see them like that, yes, they all had like the top model trucks. They had STs and stuff.
SR5s.
I got to, when I went and bought, I had a used truck. I had my Toyota, and then I had a Nissan. Then I went and bought a new hardbody in '89.
Right.
They had a deal going. It was the California Special. So it came with chrome bumpers. It came with AC, a sliding glass in the back, 5-speed. It came with all these, like, the high-end accessories.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want that California Special.
Right.
I don't want the base model. They didn't have the ST anymore.
Right.
But they had special packages they put for certain regions. And I'm like, I want that one.
Right.
And it was like, and they knew, like, you'd go right away, and it was the paper plates. So you still had your paper plates, but right away I already had my Porsche alloys sitting to the side. I lowered it.
You were, ready to go with it.
And we went cruising to San Fernando Valley.
Right.
And even when you go to San Fernando Valley, and they would be like, oh, these guys are LA.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, and that's,
Yes.
And I know there started to be some crossover with just as it grew more, there was the LA guys going with the Orange County guys, and you started to see a blend a little bit, kind of the styles.
Yeah. And you know, there was car shows left and right.
Right.
New minis that has just made it like a reappearance. They just came back, like they have the Surgeons, and they brought back a bunch of them.
Right.
You know,
and a lot of those were original mini trucks that they had, and just now let's bring it out again. Or
Eric Takushi has had that truck for 30 somewhat years.
Right.
Since he bought it new. There's a handful of these guys, but you know, we had. And I'll say we, because I was also in a club that we had hosted our own car show. I was in One of a Kind Minis. I was in Street Freaks first, but that was all cruising. We'd always be on the boulevard, go to Whittier, go to Pico, go to Hollywood, go to San Fernando.
Yeah.
And then when I want to get more competitive, I left that club.
You wanted to go to shows, but they weren't a show club in this area.
And so it was the thing that it was almost like a pass off. Like, all right, you have a show this month, we'll have a show this month.
That's true, right?
And we helped the high schools, and we'd help their booster programs, and it was a fun time, but it was also a very short-lived time. And I say that because I think that once Lowrider magazine came back from having been gone, from it changed ownership and so forth, and it really was the mini truck scene that helped them bring it back. And the Volkswagen guys. And so, but then slowly the Lowrider, they brought the Lowriders back.
Rap music.
That
definitely had a lot of to do with the popularity.
And it influenced the way lowriders were built.
Right, true.
So lowriders up until the 70s, and up to that period when the magazine stopped, you could identify that, those are 70s style. 60s, 70s. And then all of a sudden there's 90s style. And there is no in between. There is no 80s.
Right.
80s
you
can't say
it's still back in,
Yeah.
I want to say I've seen some 80s style lowriders, but they weren't on a lowrider.
No.
Like that, you saw, we were just looking at that bug that Barton Carlson did. That's way over the top, but okay, this has all the elements of what a lowrider may have had, but
because
it wasn't being done on what traditional is a lowrider.
I think a lot of us were still in that. It was like,
it's a generational thing. The parents maybe had the older lowriders in there, but their kids were getting into mini trucks and Volkswagens.
I got into it that way. My sister, my sister, that bless her heart, she took me. My mom passed away when I was pretty young. I have an older sister. She's almost 20 years older than me, and she bought a Glass House Impala, brand new in 1976.
Right.
True spokes, the whole 9 yards. Up until when she got married in '80, she sold the car.
Right.
But she would take me to the shows with her, or she'll take me to the park cruises.
Yeah.
And I sat with her, and she'd have the magazines, and I'd go through the magazines and go this is super cool,
Right.
But come my era, it was like, well, that's older
old
guys.
stuff.
Yeah.
And let's face it, too. We were building these trucks because we want to be cool for the girls.
Well, that's
And
they're like, is that your grandpa's car? No, it's got the new truck.
There was that changing of the guard.
Yeah.
The girls were now looking at the guys with the bugs,
right.
the guys with the mini trucks,
right.
or a European car or something like that, or the Hondas, right?
The Porsches, all that.
So we weren't buying. We didn't want to go buy an old car. We want to buy something brand new, but it still have the paper plates.
Right.
But you couldn't buy a car that made a good lowrider anymore.
No. Because the other thing too, I mean, think about it. At that time, Volkswagen, not bugs, but Rabbits, GTIs, Jettas.
Yeah.
That became popular. They're front-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it was a newer car. So that being a newer car, and in the 80s when most of the stuff looked European.
Yeah.
That was kind of that's where the trend went. So I think that lowriders kind of had a skip decade.
Yeah.
Because
there was some later on with the Nissan. Yeah. Some of those got done lowrider style,
but that's what I'm saying. That wasn't Impalas and Caprices. That was mini trucks.
That was basically because they were with the mini truck crowd, but had the car.
And that's where, honestly, I think that's where the breakoff was. That as Lowrider magazine started to get popular again, it brought it out that it wasn't just regional for us anymore. It was nationwide, then worldwide. Yeah. Early '80s in Japan, they were already like, all right,
they were already about it.
So all the guys that a majority of the people I hung out with started to transition to, all right, wire wheels now, coffin style interiors. I'm a victim of that because at that point, I had to ditch my Porsche wheels for Dayton's because I wanted to be competitive in the Lowrider magazine shows.
And that's what,
that's what was the trend for that.
And, I basically was told, if you don't have wire wheels, then we no longer are considering you for the top awards.
Right.
You're not a lowrider if you don't have wire wheels.
And I did the change, Then I got my truck was gonna get featured, and then I decided, you know what, I don't want to be in something that's so political now,
Right.
or pigeonholed just because of
You have to have the wheel, yeah.
So I stayed with the truck scene, and that was when I jumped into Relaxed Atmosphere. I met Sean McWeeney.
Okay.
He was working he had kind of started just keeping Trendsetter as a not a full-time gig, and he went to a shop in Pico Rivera called CNC Hydraulics.
Okay, yeah.
Because they were innovative. The guy there
Yeah.
was an engineer, and he had a milling machine.
And that's
he had lathes.
Sean,
That's the problem,
Sean was into figuring stuff out,
Right.
and he
So-
wanted to keep pushing the envelope, and that
Yeah.
was something new for that kind of
I
world.
wanted to reach out to Sean because I still had my Nissan. I want to put my Porsche wheels back on it.
Right.
But now I'm like, I want it on the ground. I still want to have a tilt bed, but I want it on the ground, and I want to blend my style over here.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was going to the truck jamborees, I was going to all the truck jamborees, and I'd love to be indoors because I still had a display, right? Like my Lowrider display.
Yeah.
So I would send in a picture. If you sent in a picture to the truck jamborees, you'd get approved for indoors.
Right.
And I would have it be on the full display and stuff. And the truck I knew always kind of was like, it's here, but it's over here.
Right.
And I would talk to the judges, and they had some great judges. That's kind of where I started to meet like Mike Fillion, a prototype judge there.
Right.
And Capiz Sims.
Okay.
Capiz Sims is another guy that was African American that had a mini truck, had a beautiful mini truck called Candylicious. He was
Okay.
a painter by trade. And he blended styles, right? He fused them, as you could say, or do a fusion.
Yeah.
And and so he would come and talk to me. He goes, I see what you're doing. He goes, but let me recommend something to you, stuff that you can get away with over there because they like to throw everything in the kitchen sink in.
Yeah.
We here are a little bit more of a
subtle,
background.
refined
and I think
detail,
it also
yeah.
had to do with now having this hot rod influence.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
And-
what a lot of it was. Is
And
at that time the hot rods were get rid of anything that stood out,
I saw what
color match it
Boyd
all.
was doing,
Yeah.
right? When he was coming out with these cars, what was he doing, right? They were like, he had the name said it all, Smoothster.
Right.
There were cars
Yeah.
that were even the hot rod, the traditional guys were like, that's
Yeah.
not.
Well,
and-
you look at even some of Boyd's very first and early hot rods that are very 70s style,
right.
Like the Model Ts and stuff that
Yeah.
have like little chrome trim, like chrome trim and stuff. And then, he was kind of one of the guys that decided, let me just get rid of everything that doesn't make it look sleek and clean and stuff like that. And that had a huge influence on the truck and the mini truck world.
And I like that I liked how the truck world continued to evolve by blending in stuff, always bringing in stuff, but yet the mini truck culture still also introduced stuff to the others. I always felt like audio. I think audio really evolved with the mini truck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
The use of tweed interior. I mean, it went to the hot rod guys. This adjustable suspension. I think, I remember what Sean was doing and thinking, going, well, this is what some of the lowrider guys are doing, but he's doing something a little different. And I remember when he started to do the airbags and all that stuff, and I'd be like, crazy, this is nuts. So I reached out to him, and he goes, well, I'm no longer at Trendsetter. I'm going to be working at the shop, but you should come by and check this out. What he's doing here. And they were doing these manifolds that they would machine. It had all the valves, and with one pump, like your typical, that you see like the guys will do like 4 pumps.
Right.
Yeah.
With one pump and these manifolds that they were engineering with 8 valves, it did all the system. The system would work like a 4-pump system. Because even 2 pumps with several valves didn't give you the individuality of 4 pumps. That's why guys will run 4 pumps, because they can dance the cars.
Yeah, right.
It was the dancing of the cars that these guys were doing, and they would make their own suspension parts. And he was he's doing body dropping mini trucks on hydraulics, where he was doing these little cylinders, and he'd extend the torsion bars out,
Right.
and move them with tortion bars, and it still had regular shocks in the front. And I was like,
What the hell?
dude, how is
He's
it
just
that this
figuring
guy,
things out. And,
how is it that this guy that, and I know Sean heard every pun that he ever heard about his hair, but I was like, how is it that guy with that messed up hairdo that has this intelligence, right?
Yeah, right.
And he would always cut his cars up.
Right.
And because
I always remember the story
the other
that
thing too.
chopped the roof off of an S10, just like, well, I can
figure
weld
it-
it back.
yeah,
I can
yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
So I went to a show in El Sereno, And I took my mini truck and I had my display ready to do. Even though you were at a high school on grass, we would still set up a display.
Yeah.
And there he comes, and he parks behind me in his Amigo that I had
yeah.
already seen once before slammed, and now it's towering.
Right.
My mini truck, he comes right behind me, and I'm like, and he had his Relaxed Atmosphere logo on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've seen that popping up. I've been seeing it, and he told me the story about how it was a lot of guys that started it that were all either worked in the industry, were a little older, were a little bit more serious about building cars and trucks. He goes, we don't consider us, that was the other thing that threw me off. He goes, we're not a mini truck club.
Right.
Oh. He goes, and we're not a car club, right?
Yeah.
We're not, and I'm like, what do you mean?
We're not
He goes,
restricted to.
and then I was like, that,
and
and he was like, no, well, we're going to have meetings, but if you come, you come.
Right.
You don't come, if you want to go to this show, you want to get there at 10 o'clock, but we're going to get there at 8, it's all right. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I came from a club that came from that structure of the Lowrider guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We had president, vice president,
Yeah.
and there was the sergeant at arms.
Yes.
And you get a paddle if you're
Yes.
I have a 2-sheet rules.
I thought you said you still
what-
have a bruise from that.
No, I have PTSD on the when I
Yeah.
see the guys from Lifestyle at some meetings and
They
they have
still
those
do
paddles,
it. Yeah, and those guys are
and I'm
getting up there. You're like,
and
you
these
might
guys
break a
aren't-
hip.
They're no longer teenagers
Yeah.
and 20-year-olds, and they're like grown men.
Right.
And I'm like,
But
whoa.
even then, before I joined Relaxed Atmosphere, I was in local finesse, for a few years, and obviously it was still later than the 90s, but they still kept that same
Right.
mini truck club
yeah,
and lowrider club structure of
Mandatory.
Yeah.
if you miss more than X number of meetings in a month,
You're
you get
out.
probation, fines. They still had a
Oh,
paddle.
for
I
us,
don't think we ever
it
saw
was-
anyone use it, but they had it.
If you rode and your car was dirty, but you had the
Yeah.
back window done,
Yeah.
you had to take it off. They
Right.
would catch you, or they would fine you.
Yeah.
You came into the parking lot too fast, they'd fine you.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't pay your fine, then they swat you. And
Yep.
I was like, so I was already going to school. I went back to college.
Yeah, so you
I
had
met
life priorities
I met
that needed to.
I met the girl that is now my wife, and I'm like, and if I had to tell her that I couldn't do, or like, she had an idea, like, let's go on a date here or something.
Right.
And,
Like,
and
no,
I
I
had
gotta
to
go
say
to mini
no
truck
because I
club.
got to
Yeah.
go. She'd be like, and I knew what would happen. I'd end up being a single guy in this truck club with a bunch
Yeah.
of guys. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't want that. So this matched, this fit, but I also like that whole mentality of having these guys that were in the industry that brought ideas and brought stuff. And then, so Sean now parks behind me.
Okay.
Now I get Sean's attention for the day.
That's true.
So I was like, shit, I probably bugged the hell out of him. But you know what? We became good friends.
Yeah.
Because he liked the fact that I was nerding out.
Right.
And I learned that Sean was just a big nerd.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, and
And-
that's
and,
he was looking at all the mechanics and engineering
and
of
so
the
he was
suspension
looking
work
at he
and-
comes and looks at my truck. He goes, who did your dancing bed? I go, there's a guy by Mondo. They referred to him as Mondo. And he was a member of a club called Desirable Ones. They're
Yep,
here. They
they're
got
here.
a few trucks here.
Right.
Those guys were the kings of bed dancing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
That's
And
true.
and there was another group of guys that were all Armenian out of Hollywood called Unique Creations, and those guys would butt heads in Hollywood.
Right.
That was the funnest stuff for me ever. But again, I had this, and he would look at it and go, we can create this and we can do this, and he would come up with. And me, I went to school. I'm an engineer for a living. I do plumbing engineering.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going
understand
like,
how it all works
So and
and
I'm
how it
telling
could
him,
work together,
and
yeah.
I'm reading him, and I'm telling him my ideas and stuff and this and that, and he was like, how is it that you? I go, I'm studying engineering. I go, I know CAD. I do this. He goes, well, I'm gonna go work at this place. You should go meet the guy because he's an engineer and he does everything by hand. I go, yeah, I know hand drafting. He goes, but you know CAD. I said, yeah. He needs somebody that knows CAD to program the milling machine.
Right.
And I was like, I want to
All
learn
right,
how
now
to
you're-
program
now
a
you got a little
milling
step
machine.
in,
yeah.
Let's go program a milling machine. And I went and hung out with him for a while, and we came up with some cool stuff, and that's when I started to be a part of Relaxed Atmosphere. And I remember going to the meetings still in Orange County, like the Lamppost, and I think because all the meetings were always
Buena
near.
Park area. Yeah.
Well, I
area.
never learned it until recently that the meetings were near the office of the magazine.
Exactly. Right.
So the Carl's Jr. of the original meeting location, which is on La Palma, was down the street from there.
The
Then we went
Lamppost
to
is on
Lamppost
State
down
College.
the street.
Yeah.
So it was always easy for Mike Shartzis to get
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
I didn't notice until
You just didn't
recently.
catch
it. Yeah.
I never caught it.
technically, though, that area or Buena Park area is considered the center of Southern California. So
Right.
Yeah.
If you had to give
Maybe.
a reason, it's the center for everybody. But
Yeah.
and it's just easy for him.
Yes, it was. I think it was that. I think it was just super
Well,
simple.
the Carlos Jr. on La Palma, though, was a big cruising spot. So I think that was just easy for
that's
everyone.
true.
Just everybody meet
That
at
is
Carlos
true.
Jr. because it had the right
And then
parking
later
lot.
they
Yeah.
had signs up that said you could not
yeah,
cruise there
because
and all that.
local finesse.
Yeah, I know. I
met
remember.
at the McDonald's.
Yeah, we in Brea. Yeah.
Or no, they also.
Oh no, that was I know what
yes,
you're
they
saying.
did meet in Brea.
That was later on.
And I'm pointing like if it's right down.
I know,
the
right?
street.
Yeah.
No,
right.
everyone.
But,
no one's
everything's
knows where we're
typical. I love how people back east always know you're from California when you say you point or you say you hop on
the freeway.
405
When you get on the 405 to the 505. Yeah, right.
But yeah, and yeah, I mean, you know. And
So-
as I look across the way and I see Doug Starbuck over there, and I remember going to one of my going to Relaxed Atmosphere meetings and him popping up.
Right, yeah.
And then seeing these guys that were popping up, going, right, oh, that guy was in the magazine doing this tech article, and this guy was in the magazine doing. Oh, I know why they're part of Relaxed Atmosphere now, and I saw the whole network of it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. I kind of came in as.
So you've been following along on Auto Revolution. You know that we're a big fan of Chevy OBS trucks. And Beltec Suspension has been around for 40 years, and they were one of the first innovators of the sport truck movement back in the 80s. And we've been lucky with them to partner on a few different projects, from the OBS Clash documentary series to the Tahoe Unlimited, and even a few things that we've got up our sleeves coming out later this year. What's really cool is they've partnered with us to offer free shipping if you use the code AutoRevolution24 at Beltec.com. So whether it's a lowering kit on your Chevy or a lift kit on your Bronco or your Jeep, and if you use the code AutoRevolution24 at Beltec.com, you're going to get free shipping. Now back to the show. So if you're still rocking your stock stereo system, you need some help. And you need to go to Powerbase and check out their OEM direct fit line of speakers. Basically a plug and play operation on any newer Chevy, Ford, Dodge, Nissan, you name it. And I actually got a full set in my Toyota 4Runner. It sounds amazing, especially considering you're basically just replacing the factory speakers. So go check them out at powerbaseusa.com. Use the code AutoRev24 and you can get 10% off anything on the site, including these cool little Bluetooth speakers. This one right here is the Sound Cube. Clip it on your backpack, take it down to the beach. And what's really cool is this split speaker. So you can put one in the kitchen, one in the backyard at a party. Everyone's having a good time listening to the same music. Basically got like full stereo, almost surround sound system in this little package. So if you use the code AutoRev24, you can get 10% off. So go check them out and take a listen.
We're about the same age. We grew up cruising in kind of the same areas. And the thing that was so cool about what I loved about back then was you could go to Westwood, right, cruise there, then go to Hollywood, cruise there in one night, or do that in one weekend.
Yes.
Or you could say, you know what, I'm going to do Balboa Island one night, and then I'm going to do Huntington Pier the next night.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So there was spots that you could like almost take little mini trips to.
Yes.
But then see, like you mentioned, the Valley. The Valley was completely different than the South Bay. The South Bay was completely different than Whittier, and Whittier is completely different than, Seal Beach.
Some of the styles we have, but you get to see a little bit of everything.
Right, so you got to see everything. Like, so for you to say like, oh, I didn't want to, like, I wanted my alloys on my truck, but this group wanted wires because that's the direction they were going.
Yeah.
But then you would have no problem going to another location and people would be, oh, dude, your truck's rad.
Yes.
Right? And that's, I miss that.
Yes.
I miss the fact that even, like, yeah, I didn't like some of the dancing bed stuff, but that wasn't my cup of tea. I like more of the graphic stuff. So to me, a lot of the lowrider guys got into the graphics
Yes.
more than, say, the guys that were trying to do just the Euro look.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think that kind of helped just pepper everybody into different styles.
Right. I was in the same boat. Like the bed dancing wasn't for me because it's just like the hopping. It was, you made a car specifically for something. The truck was designed, built for that.
Yeah.
I wanted a show truck.
Right.
I had a tilt bed, but that's to show off my undercarriage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you weren't dancing around
And it was
putting
added
stress
points.
on it.
It was added points. Now, he's got hydraulics. That checks the box.
Yeah.
So that's what I was always looking for. I wanted to check the boxes.
Right.
And then be able to travel. So what I liked about like the lowrider, the lowrider magazine shows, unlike like the truck jamborees. The truck jamborees were Orange County.
They were, yes.
But lowrider magazine started to travel.
Yeah.
And so I would hop in my truck and I'd go to shows in Central California, go to Tulare,
Right.
or go to Northern California, and then all of a sudden you get there, and there was that guy's from LA.
Yep.
Yeah, you
So
can tell the
there's
difference.
a guy here up here. He's got that beautiful candy red K5. Dan Sanchez. He's from New Trend.
Yeah.
They were New Trend minis. They're out of Salinas.
Yeah.
And I remember those guys would pop up in the Lowrider magazine all the time in mini trucking because they were, but their style was theirs. They had different
they didn't want to be, and that's the same way new minis. I remember hearing that the new minis name came from not wanting to necessarily be like the old
they didn't like the Datsuns
or that style. They want this is our style.
Yeah.
This is the new mini style.
Yeah.
And I love it because I talk to them and they're we're the old cats, we're old school. I go, well, no, there's a guy up there in front of you that he's a little bit more old school than you.
Yeah.
And that's Frank Paris,
right
there with his little
the
Hawaiian.
Which
that's 70s style. That's now
exactly.
That's the blending of the vans to trucks.
Right.
Yes.
Right? The fender flares, the type of interior. That was
the shell on there with the mural on the side, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I think that's why I stuck to trucks. But I think it also goes back. It stems back to where you grow up, how your family is.
Yeah.
My family is from my mom's side is Ensenada, Mexico, Baja.
Right.
Which is the closest thing to being from California, but not in California.
Right.
It's like not the country at least.
Yeah.
But you go there and they're into surfing.
It's
they're into
it's just more south.
Yeah, you go there where in this day and age where Huson's is and Papa's, that was where they would cruise.
Right.
And believe it or not, I'd hop in my mini truck on the 3-day weekends, like the Memorial Day, Labor Day, spring break, and I'd go to Ensenada.
Right.
And you can go cruise there, and they were into the scene too.
Yeah.
Right? There's guys there that had mini trucks and stuff. But, my family had a gas station there.
Okay.
And my uncles, my mom's brothers, they all had trucks. And I learned to drive in a truck.
There you go.
Well, and that's the thing, especially down in Mexico, that there is a big truck culture coming from, and it depends on the area and stuff, but like with the ranches or the farms, stuff like that.
Yeah, my grandfather had a farm, and he had like pigs and livestock and stuff. And then they had the gas station, and they had their house by the beach, and then all the kids. My mom was a little rebellious / she got divorced. She moved to California. She came here. She was a nurse. My sister eventually came here, and they stayed here. I don't have much family here in California that I can say. I have family in Texas too.
Right.
So Waxahachie, which is where C-10's in the park
C-10's
is.
in the park.
That's right.
One stone. I'm gonna go wax there, but they all had trucks, and my brother, who surfed. My brother was a surfer, avid surfer. And he would take my grandfather's truck. It was probably like a 70s square body. Step side, it was like a beige with the red, with the trim that had the red, and it had like the two-tone.
Okay.
And that's where he goes, all right, he'd give me the keys and let me go at it, right? And I was like,
what do I do here?
Oh my God, I'm like learning to drive. And I think it's that. I think it's always what you like.
It's always what you grew up with.
That's
and what
my comfort zone. It's
yeah.
trucks.
Yeah. It's
and
what you.
And I've liked to. I love how it's evolved. I love how the truck scene has evolved so much so that we got our own.
We're here now.
Now there's an kind of high-end indoor show for just catered around the trucks. You mentioned your Nissan having the tilt bed and stuff like that, and then I know for a while Sean kind of redid a lot of work on it, and then it kind of just...
So I bought a...
You did other things and many other vehicles since then, but now in the last couple of years you've been having Sean Ramage over to Empire Fabrication out in Ventura, doing a lot of work to bring that Nissan back. But tell us maybe what it was at the point that it was left at, last in the 90s, and then what's being done now to either modernize it or bring some of that style into it as well.
Well, the Nissan, I had it, right, and I had already dominated in, they had all the classes, right, there was street custom, mild, semi, full, radical.
Right.
We had closed bed, open bed.
Yes.
So it was awesome. And I did well up until semi-custom, full custom, And then I was like, I'm creative enough. I have enough ideas. We can take this to the top. I meet Sean. I start talking to Sean and say, hey, Sean, I want to take my truck to this other level.
Right.
And I go, because I had already hodgepodged it a little bit from trying to stick with the lowrider shows, but now sticking to these other shows. I go, I want to bring it back, make it a little bit more sleeker, clean, but with some cool tricks.
Yeah.
And we had all these ideas. Sean had already left CNC, did another shop before he went to MIC.
I was going to say pre-MIC, probably.
Yeah, there was a shop that was in Santa Ana, which is where he built Westside. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the shop,
Yeah,
but it
I
was
don't
right
know.
before MIC.
Concepts, but
No.
Concepts was out. That
No,
was out
that
in Lake
was-
Elsinore.
yeah, that was-
something
yeah.
That was,
performance. He did Dave's truck, the one that he cut the roof off, that
Yeah.
OBS, now an OBS. It was brand new then.
Yeah, it was brand new
He
then.
roadstered
Yeah, it wasn't the old
Right.
lifestyle then.
Yeah.
It was something before. It was, and there is
Wow.
where I got to meet.
We'll look that up.
Yeah, yeah, that one's slipping
Right
away from
there.
me.
You guys see,
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
comment, and
Right.
you will remember. But he had, I got to meet Rob when Rob still hadn't started. MIC was actually for something else when he was doing the music.
Right.
music and
Yeah.
then car detailing
Right.
for a little bit, and then the shop.
I got to work on the Ford dually, crew cab dually he had. He brought that to Sean and Pico.
Yeah.
And I helped with the hydraulics on that.
Yeah.
Sean was like, hey, we're going to clean this up, blah, blah, blah. And I never got to meet Rob at that time. I meet Rob now at this other shop again.
Yeah.
It was down the street from Four Wheel Parts. But anyways, I get to meet him there, and then eventually he goes to MIC.
Yeah.
And it was at MIC, but then Sean introduced me to somebody that to this day is one of my dear friends, very influential in my life, and that's Mike Filion.
Yeah.
Pro Design.
Yeah,
Hot
Pro
Rod.
Design.
So I said, I'm building this truck. He had done Project X, and he had done this other stuff. That was a Toyota from back east.
Right.
And so we started to work on it. So at this point, I go, I need to eventually get myself a truck that if this thing's going to be a trailer, I need to buy I bought a Silverado. I bought a 92 Silverado from
Right.
another friend. And but hanging out with Mike and seeing how the sport truck was evolving, it was when I put the mini truck on the back burner, focused on school and my career, and I bought a Silverado, and that's where I kind of just started to really evolve a little bit more.
Yeah, new
The
air
Starbucks
suspension
painted
on
it
that,
for me. We did
and-
air suspension,
yeah.
so it was an official MIC shop, and when they were over there in Yorba Linda, off
Right.
of Lakeview,
Yeah.
I took them and he airbagged my Silverado. But it wasn't painted or done nothing. It was just airbag. And these guys were already hardcore about going to shows, taking stuff.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, I got the truck you bagged. Like, yeah, no, we're going to stick with the dually and this truck and that truck. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
Then Doug Starbuck
needs
got
a little
hold of-
something more.
Yeah, Mike did some body mods. He took it to Doug Starbuck. He two-toned it. Then we had a truck now with Boyd wheels, 17s, Ropan, Sir Michael's Ropan.
Yeah.
So
all the
the
billet stuff
recipe
from
of
Empire.
the
So much so that a truck could have got featured.
Right.
But tonneau cover, my friend Paul Reese that was working at Stockland hooked me up with the
That's
tonneau
right.
cover. Those
Yeah.
guys, I got to meet so many people, and these people that I still call my friends to this day.
Right.
His brother-in-law Mark and Paul worked at Sprint.
That's right.
So and then from Sprint they went to different
They
ventures.
went, yeah.
And the small world, which is where I got to hear the name Tom McWeeny, because Tom married into this family that was also part of the family of Sprint, and it was so weird how
Yeah.
everybody
And he
knew
worked at
each
MIC
other.
for a little bit,
Yeah.
and worked at Boyd's.
Hell,
Right.
I got stories of, like when I first met you. You were working at Linex,
Yeah.
and we were
Tom,
bombarding
yeah.
everybody with stickers. Here, kid,
Yeah.
give me a handful of stickers, and we're like going to a
just
party.
gorilla.
Slapping,
Just
yeah.
go for it.
the
Slap
guerrilla
stickers.
welfare, but
Yep.
and it's having the Silverado and then the sport truck and that type of thing, that it was like the mini truck did go on the back burner for
Yeah.
a long time. I did my Silverado, and then Mike started to work on Sublo.
Okay.
And so
Right, yeah.
my
Chops,
mini truck
yeah,
was there,
old Suburban.
and there was this old Suburban. To me at that point, I was like, but I knew that the body style was hot. I
Right.
remember like Brian McCormick always having that body
Always had his-
style,
yeah,
right?
right.
His Blazers, and
Blazer,
his truck.
yeah, yeah.
And you know that they were hot, but it
This
goes,
is This is early 2000s,
Yeah,
maybe.
you were still-
So it was
Well, I think late 90s by
Or
then.
late 90s.
Yeah, that's
No,
probably
but-
like 90s, yeah.
because I sold my Silverado in
pre-C10
2000.
explosion by a
Exactly.
long shot.
By a long shot, yeah.
Yeah. You were still those trucks were coming out 90s, except Mike's Suburban.
Yeah.
Mike's Suburban blended something else, which was, I was like, this is really cool.
High level of fabrication.
Yes, high level
Yeah.
fabrication, interior, high-end interior.
Because hang on, we got to set that for a second, because you just said something that made a lot of sense. C10s at that time, more people were trying to make a 60 C10 look like an 88 to 98 by putting like the old school step side bed on it
Yes.
and doing
yeah.
like a front roll pan and trying to make and like billet grills inside of a C10. So everything that we don't do now
Yes.
was being done then.
Yes, my maybe I'll get to this friend after. So, but because same thing, he worked at before there was LMC, the truck shop, there was Golden State Pickup Park.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dalton, my friend Richard Briones worked there.
Yes, right.
Which was a neighbor of mine. He was a lot younger than me, and when I was working on my trucks inside, he would always look up.
Yeah.
So I met him there, and I remember they would sell. It was their original stuff, their NOS stuff,
Right.
and the aftermarket stuff. And you looked at the aftermarket stuff, and it blended stuff that was supposed to be for a new body style
Right.
truck at that time.
Right.
Yeah, that was what the
Before
trend
it
was.
the
Yeah.
OBS.
Yeah.
But going back to Mike, building the Suburban, while at first I didn't care for it, as the years were going by, I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
this is interesting. And he finishes it, and he takes it to the California Truck Jamboree.
Right.
And I think that while it didn't make the impact that
I know where you're going with this.
most people would have thought it made an impact with the right people. And
Right.
we were all like, crap.
Yeah.
You know, and I
It
was,
just
yeah.
kicked things up a notch a little bit.
It
Yeah.
kicked it up, and so much so that when it was in street trucks, I mean, the stories just kept going and going because there was so much stuff in there that
Yeah.
Right.
chopped, decrowned. I never heard the word decrowned. Section
Right.
here, this and that. It was
Well, and
like,
it's all borrowing a lot of the influences from hot rod and the custom worlds, where you'd see all that on a Merc or on a Ford shoebox or something, brought into the truck and the mini truck worlds, and like I said, blending kind of the styles
Yeah.
together a little bit.
yeah. And so that drove me to say, I want a no truck now.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and had just got married and had sold my Silverado. Nissan's still in there. I had a mini truck I bought from Mike Schartz's, the turbo truck.
Yeah.
I had an '87 Toyota turbo truck. That was their that was their guinea pig when Sean Carlson was working at Mini Truck.
right.
Right.
Those guys went on a whole different tangent, and they were building like performance mini trucks.
Yeah.
And I actually built a rock crawler Samurai for a
Really?
little while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were in a 4-wheel drive club
Yeah,
as well.
right.
A 4x4.
Yeah.
He was in an
But-
off-road club too.
But no, but that was
took
Samurais were a cool thing back then.
Right.
you
I
know?
bought it as I need a stock vehicle, so I don't drive the truck.
Like it always
because-
happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like when you talked earlier about going to all the different areas cruising,
Yeah.
I always left from there with a parting gift, which were tickets.
Tickets. Yes.
Fix-it tickets.
Yes. Lots of them.
And my sister, like I said, bless her heart, man, because, she just looked. She would check the mail and be like, "So you got something from LA County today?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you got something from Huntington Beach today?
Yeah.
You got something." And
Like,
she
where have
knew
you
what they
been?
were.
yeah. Yeah.
She knew what
Well,
they were
yeah, she
because
said she was in the
got those
lowrider
tickets.
scene, yeah.
So
Yeah.
she knew, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I got a ticket." But she was okay with that because she knew a fix-it ticket compared to other stuff that I could have got myself into
Right. Exactly.
was the least of her problems.
Right.
And honestly, even like I said, the girl that I met that is now my wife, when she goes, "What are you into?" I go, "Going to school and cruising and car shows." What? I go, "You want to go with me?" "Sure." She goes, "Sure, I'll go with you." I remember picking her up at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning,
Yeah. Right.
going up to her house, and her mom was like,
What are you guys doing?
Yeah. What's
instead
going on?
of coming home like at past midnight, you're leaving at 4 where are
Yeah,
you going?
yeah.
But her brother was my friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like super excited.
Alfonso.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
Mom. Don't
Yeah,
worry,
he
Mom."
knows
Yeah,
what's
and she
happening.
would
Yeah.
tag along, and so, but going back, so then, the wanting this old truck now, I was like, I want an old truck because this is kind of cool that we can bring what we've learned into an old truck.
Yeah.
I got to go to I think I really got gung-ho when I went to Good Guys in Del Mar for the first time.
Right.
And I was like,
So you're seeing a whole different kind of crowd and a
Yeah.
different style than.
and they were cruising.
see.
Yet
Right.
they were Yet they had these high-dollar cars. They were cruising.
Yeah.
And they were having a good time. And now I'm in my late 20s. I'm 30, so probably by then. And I'm like, this isn't too bad. I think I can keep doing this for many more years to come.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay, I can be
So
an
I
old
bought
guy.
an
do
old
this.
truck. I bought a 1965 Suburban.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got it, I was like, where am I going to go with this thing? What am I going to do with this? And I went back to my roots of like how I like certain things. I like certain paints that just attract.
Yeah.
The color schemes and so forth. I'm a big fan of pinstriping. And
Yeah.
the gentleman that would letter our back windows in my mini truck club is Dennis Jones. He's a striper from the 60s.
Right.
When we were kids and we didn't have nowhere else to go, but we had our mini trucks, we would go bug him and sit it because he worked. I don't know, something about those I think it's a thing with most artistic people. They don't like to keep normal working hours.
They don't.
No. The creative
Yes,
hours are
yes.
between
So this
10
guy,
and 2 a.m.
Yes.
He wasn't there 8 to 5. He was there from the evening through the middle of the night.
Sure.
And if
Yeah.
you fed him and brought him sodas, he was a cool cat.
Right.
And so I would go in his shop and open up photo albums. And there was albums.
That was a common thing too, because I remember it wasn't Dennis Jones, but the guy that painted my back window when I was in local finesse. The rule was you paid him X amount, which I mean compared to now it was like $60 or
Right,
something
yeah,
super
yeah,
cheap.
something stupid.
$60 and a 12-pack of Diet Coke.
Yeah.
That was what you brought him.
Yeah.
I worked in an equipment rental yard, so I worked on construction equipment, industrial equipment. I was going to school, and then I had a part-time job at a Pizza Hut delivering pizzas.
Yeah.
And so I would bring him pizzas, and he loved me. So he would let me be nosy. And it was funny because as a pinstriper, you really don't need that much room in a shop, right?
No.
As long as
No,
one
you're
car
not doing a
fits
full
in there.
paint booth.
He did a lot of
Yeah.
tow trucks, a lot of ambulances. This was
Yeah,
still
all
in
the
the fire
lettering
departments, right?
and stuff.
But
Yeah.
he had a big shop, and I'd go venture back there, and come to find out, there was like 3 cars under piles. He was a hoarder.
Of course.
Sorry, Dennis. I know you're out. You're gonna probably watch this because I'm gonna
there's a
send
lot
you
of
the
them.
link.
There's a lot
But
of
you
them.
had a
There's a
lot
lot
of
to do
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and I would find these photo albums, and I'd be like, "Who's this? Oh, that's Ed.
Yeah. Who's that?
Roth.
Yeah. Roth.
Who's
Roth,
that?"
yeah.
It was fun. They would have parties, and these guys party like rock stars.
Yeah.
And I would learn. I would see this stuff, and I'd want, hey. And I remember even my mini truck. I had him pinstripe it, and it was pinstriped, and it had silver leaf, and it had all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a pearl paint job with this and that, but pinstriping, which most people weren't doing.
Exactly.
So that's what I think I
Yeah,
used
you're
to cause
blending over-
commotion at the shows. If I went to
Yeah.
the Lowrider shows and would win a big award,
Yeah.
and I would love it because Lowrider shows so they would talk trash on me in Spanish and didn't know that I could speak Spanish.
Of course. Right.
And I'd be like, oh, what guy in Spanish? Oh, we meant you.
Yeah.
But they're like, we just don't get it. Your truck's simplistic. I go, yeah, but I check all the boxes.
Right.
Cool. So when I go to build my 65, I go, I want my pinstriping. I want these colors.
You want
And then-
some galeafing,
yeah,
a little bit
and
of
I
leafing.
had seen some work that Mike was doing. He was using the same upholstery guy, Willie out of Brea, and they were doing the tuck and roll stuff,
Right.
and this and that.
Yeah.
Looking back through those photo albums, I remember a lot of pictures of the 60s car shows. And the 60s thing was super cool. I think they were very innovative in that time.
Of course they were.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
people might look back at it now and go like, oh, it's the old days. No, I think they were super innovative.
No, because that's everything kind of comes back, and maybe it's just applied in a different way, and a little bit different. But especially too, you got to remember of what resources
Right.
they may a had, and
Yeah.
They were
which
like-
they didn't.
No. So I was like, you know what? I wanna kind of give my truck a little bit of a 60s theme, a little bit of Lowrider with this modern stuff. So
Yeah.
a little bit of billet, some pinstriping, the tuck and roll. Recently I had those acrylic knobs made. There's this. I met a really cool artist guy too. Same thing, artistic. My friend Jason Tereoka. I met him in Japan.
Okay.
Lived in Hawaii, but his wife was from Hacienda Heights. They came and hung out, and they came and him and his wife came to Hacienda Heights and lived there for a while. And he was making acrylic knobs, like the '60s acrylic knob.
Yeah.
And I put a big shifter on my truck.
Hell yeah.
I had a low car shifter, and I remember one of the guys from Relax Atmosphere, again, going back to Relax Atmosphere and their connections within the industry.
Yeah.
There was a guy, Eric, worked at Low Car. I said, I want one of those big shifters. I go, but it mounts to the transmission. Can you set it up for me to mount it on top of in the sheet metal inside the cab so I can still get an extra 8 inches? He was like, I think so, and now it's in their catalog.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, huh?
It's the mounting points to not have it on the transmission. And
Right.
and I made all the acrylic knobs, and I did a glory grill insert. Instead of a billet insert, I have a tube grill insert like the 60s.
Yeah.
And it was this stuff that I wanted to do that just blended some styles. And I think, like I said, it's definitely not one of these trucks that's competing here for the world's most beautiful trucks, but I get a lot of guys that'll stop sometimes that'll be an old timer going, hey, I like what you did with this.
Yeah,
I like
they
what
kinda
you did
catch
with
some of
that.
the details
And they'll look
in
at it
it.
and go, we used to do that in our cars back in the day.
Yeah.
Or then there's the younger guys going,
What is that? Right, yeah.
where'd you get that from? Where'd you think that
Yeah,
up?
yeah. Is
And
that
I'm
a
all-
sticker?
Like, well, no, you're like, oh, I just borrowed it from this, influence and that, yeah.
And
It just all kind of.
yeah, exactly. And so borrowing from you know, I
A
think
little bit lowrider, custom
yeah.
hot rod
Yeah.
for the Suburban. So then the Nissan now being redone, what are you? What influence are you borrowing to put into that?
I want to bring it back to that 80s LA style with the new.
Yeah.
Right. So Sean built a full chassis for it. It'll have a tilt bed, single tilt bed. So he is with sheet metal like a true artist. He did the rear, the cab, smooth, but brought the body line around, because before people would, cut sheet metal and plaster it back there and over. He cut the cab up and did the sheet metal, brought the line in, brought the Nissan logo from the tailgate behind the cab.
Nice.
When Mike had it, he had radius, my doors. All the other subtle tricks that he had learned, they're in there now. There's a lot of stuff that's shaved and smooth, but when I go to paint it, I'm probably still going to go with the solid color candy.
Right, good. Okay.
Some mild striping. I still like that the VW guys, like when I see these, there's a club German folks.
Yeah.
Right.
That they have that European, but yet that the LA thing is that to blend in something from another culture.
Yeah.
I want to blend that in. I want to have that, because sometimes I'll sit in my head and go, do I want to paint it a candy, or how about like a forest green with the brown interior but the Porsche alloys? I have a good friend, Paul Iozio. I think I pronounced his right. So he's making Porsche alloys up to 18-inch.
Okay.
But he uses so in the Fuchs, there's different models to them.
Yes.
I can't tell you which ones are. I know I hear what the Volkswagen guys say, and they say there's earlies.
Yes.
And then there's all other Fuchs.
Turbos.
Right, yeah, and then they have the deeps, and they have
that's your turbos,
crab,
or the deeps.
The crabs in the front.
The crabs are the front ones, right?
Which they'll cut up.
Yeah.
So now he's making them.
Yeah.
And he makes the early designs with the heart shape in the triangle.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're blended, and so he'll make a little deeper in the back. He'll make the crab in the front.
Right.
They make a small 17-inch tire. I think there's like a 175/40, and there's like a bigger. But I want to okay, do I blend in a little bit of this and that? I don't know. I'm still working on it. You'll have to wait.
It's all in metal fabrication right now. So
It's in metal fabrication. The goal for me is to
you can eventually
I am taking a little break from it right now. It's just, life gets in the way. The house, I have to take care of a household. I got more cars than I should. I have my OBS Suburban now, that my 90 Survivor.
Right.
That Tom McWeeny, he did some graphics on it and stripes. We worked together on that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have that, and I have I have a 1960 wagon.
Yeah, that's right.
Brookwood wagon, my two-door wagon. That's my wife's. That's Maria's. I told her I'm gonna build you something cool that you'll like, and she's like, "What?" Because she helps me. I'm like, with the 65, when we went to the upholstery, I go, "Can you help me? Can you look through the books?"
Yeah.
The color combos originally, Sean Smith. Sean Smith.
Yeah, Sean Smith Designs.
Sean Smith Design. He was in Relaxed Atmosphere.
That's right.
And he did a rendering, and it was going to be, at that time, we had just bought a 2003 Lexus IS300 in 2002, and it came in a graphite gray, and I love that color. And I was like, this color with a burgundy, two-tone the Suburban, and he did a rendering.
Yeah.
The rendering's gray and red with like raceline wheel, like a 5-spoke raceline wheel, but it was very modern. And the more and more I looked at it, I went,
it would be a completely different
vibe
on your Suburban than it would have been. Yeah.
And Maria, one day we were at show. She's like, that orange and white over there reminds me of those 50/50 bars. That's a cool combination. And I was like,
so you kind of use copper and cream.
Yeah. So this is now 2000. We bought it in 2005. So 2006 HHR. They had those HHRs.
Right.
Chevy. Which Kevin Doyle drives one.
Yeah.
And it's that copper. And I told him, this is the color that's on my Suburban. And he goes, what? Really? And it's the HHR with the GM cream.
Yeah.
And I go, because I wanted to be able to touch it up if I need to.
That's it.
Touched up a million times.
Yeah.
Recently.
No, and that's smart too to go for the OE color that's not custom mix. That way you can get it.
Yeah. But,
speaking. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I said, but the Nissan, I have two things. This more a little bit European modern type of thing, or does it still stick with a little bit more of that true LA style with the candy?
Right. But that's what you could throw in. throw in some little details.
Yeah,
and
because
then
we did blend
You're creating your own.
You
Yeah.
know, when we did those trucks,
Yeah.
you know, we did do that. We called them.
It was a blend of Lowrider,
the interiors.
Volkswagen, Hot Rod.
We were borrowing Prelude seats, MR2
Yeah,
seats.
yes.
We were doing these modern interiors with the electronics and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I can pull it off.
Yeah.
No, you can't. It's just
Yeah.
figuring it all out.
I think I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, talking about the paint stuff a little bit, obviously out here at the Grand National Truck Show, it was really cool to see that our friend Tom McWeeny with the best pinstriping award, and they have his truck out on display right in the center.
Yeah.
I want to say this real quick. We should have called it best pin stripping, because that was the inside joke of his spelling was not always the best. And
look,
Chris Coddington
was
told
it
me a
your
story
fault?
this morning.
It's my fault.
Chris Coddington told me a story this morning that he asked for something to be signed, but misspelled it, and so at Boyd, the secretary actually took a lighter to the edge because he spelled it singed.
Nope. Okay.
Oh.
I know both stories.
Okay, all right, go for it, because that's what I heard.
So at the K&N open house in like 2000 and maybe 15 or 14,
Yeah,
one
it
of
was
those
our
years.
show.
It was
Relaxing
earlier.
SoCal.
It was earlier than that.
Relaxing in SoCal.
Yeah,
No.
it was
in
earlier than
SoCal.
that. Yeah,
Well,
it would have been like 2000.
which one?
K&N
Okay.
would have been 2008 or.
Okay, so we're at that
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tom was starting his pinstriping career.
Yeah.
And somebody asked him, can you give out the best pinstriping award?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sure. And so, like, well, Tom, did you bring something for that award? And the idea was, well, there's got to be something around here that I can stripe.
Yeah.
So-
I remember seeing him doing that
So
too.
we're looking for something to stripe, and he looks at me and goes, I'm going to have to, like, letter it on there. And Tom didn't have very good penmanship, so most of his lettering I would do for him. So, of course, I would take his Stabilo pencil, and I'm talking to somebody as I'm laying this out, and I spelled pinstriping, pinstripping.
Oh.
And
So Tom, though, but this is the greatest part. Tom, not knowing how to spell pinstriping, still
He
went ahead
went over
with,
it.
He went over it,
And didn't realize that he misspelled
and
it.
then you guys give out the award.
right.
So there's that.
And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't catch it.
Right.
I didn't catch it
It's
either.
a hard word to catch.
It is a
it
hard
really
word to
is.
Well, and
catch.
even then you think, you're like, oh yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Well, no, because you look at it twice and go like, is it spelled?
You're like,
is it
no,
really
that
spelled
make-
like that?
that looks
no,
like-
come on,
yeah.
it's got like it's one of those words
Yeah.
that you kind of have to look at and
It's
show your
like
friend.
it's like spelling Mississippi. There's
Exactly.
just a lot of
Yeah,
P's
you're
and
like,
a lot of I's.
yeah. You're like, how many S's?
You're like,
how many
close
I's?
enough.
Right.
But I didn't catch it either.
Right.
And it wasn't until a little later that there was some, there's always the giggles and the
There
stuff.
totally
It's
is.
like, so, somebody said, so who got the best pinstripping award?
Yeah.
And I was like,
You
what?
stripping pinstriping? What the hell?
And so you didn't notice it. And of course now I feel like, like it's just the dumbass. And
Right.
I was like, no.
right.
And so I never knew, but it stayed forever, right?
Yeah.
Because that was only our third relaxing in SoCal. We
Right.
did the original one, which was, a little small
Small one at
gathering
a small shop. Yeah, not K&N or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then two at K&N, and then eventually at Alpine Electronics.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was. I think that was his home. That was like he got to like be striping for people on the
Oh,
fly.
love that. Yeah.
To go get
Yeah.
him out there on the open. I mean,
Yeah.
he worked in the industry
Right.
at Coast Airbrush.
Yeah.
He was always around people. Everybody knew him.
Yeah.
It's funny how many people knew him.
Yes.
I
Well,
to this
and
day,
especially too when you think of from Costa, he's the cashier
Yeah.
for a long time. So
Everybody
he's the one-
would see him.
everyone that's coming in there
Yeah.
Yeah.
to buy paint.
But
to-
then also
he's gonna talk to him.
his time in the industry. He's worked out of several shops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went back again. He worked in the fiberglass industry, like shells and
Well,
tunnels.
let's bring up the other part of the story that he worked at Hot Rods by Boyd.
Right.
And as their kind of everything, like, delivery driver, car washer, wheel polisher, whatever. I mean, Tom kind of did everything over at Boyd's. And again, Tom wasn't a scholar. He was an artist.
Yeah.
So more of his stuff in school he did was drawing.
Right.
So sure enough, he's a delivery driver for Hot Rods by Boyd, and he had to drop off, some wheels. And sure enough, on the invoice, you had to ask for someone's signature. So he wrote on there, instead of put sign here, he put singe here.
yeah.
And one of the guys that was that he was delivering, he goes, Tom hands him the clipboard, like, here you go, sign this. And the guy looks at it and goes, I'll be right back. Walked into the office and lit it on fire. And Tom's watching it on fire from like, so he's freaking out, right? I worked at Sir Michael's at the time. He stopped by and said, dude, this guy just, and I forgot who it was.
That'd be funny to try to
remember,
find out who it was. Who it is.
So he's like, dude, I just did this
Chris
drop off,
might know, yeah.
and like the guy burned the paper. I can't take it back to work. Like he thought he was gonna get fired. And I go,
Dude, I love this.
So then I sat there trying to think like, well, can I just like, how can I take at Sir Michael's?
Yeah.
How can I take the photocopier and try to because I was gonna make a fake invoice that's Hot Rods by Boyd. So then, and I was just going to sign the guy's signature, right? So I'm trying to like bail him out, and he's like, "Bro, I think I'm just going to go get fired."
I mean, it wasn't his doing. Well,
no, it was
his doing, but he's not the one with the lighter.
So then he does go back, and he had to give the thing to freaking Chris's mom. And it was Diane. It was like, she's like, Thomas.
Oh my God, Thomas.
Yeah.
Bust
out the full name.
Diane was gnarly. She was like, Thomas, come here. And that was, so I'll let Chris maybe tell the rest of that story, but
I love
hilarious,
it.
you
I
guys.
want to hear this. I want to hear.
Hilarious.
He needs to add that into. He needs to have one of his. You know, he does a good podcast.
Yeah,
I love your guys' podcast too, but we have to listen.
Unfortunately,
we
we had Chris on
earlier.
We recorded him, so maybe we'll have to have him come back.
Just
to pop that story
Volume
out for a
2,
little bit.
Right.
But no, and it's Tom knew a lot of people. You know, again, there is somebody that. Yes, an artist, great at what he was doing, and I think that when he was doing the Relaxing SoCal shows, that gave him an opportunity to like really express himself. To like he would do awards for us, not just the best pinstriping, but
stripping.
everything. Right? We got this best of, and we had another friend, my friend Jose. We called him Mr. 19 because he chopped
missing a finger.
So
he was another painter, and
makes
great tacos as well.
My other good friend Robbie Azevedo, now he's kind of in that realm too. So he's got
did Robbie lose one? I didn't know he lost one.
He found cancer in a finger too.
Really?
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, you
what
guys
a bummer.
should have him on.
Yeah.
To tell you a PSA.
Yeah.
Because he thought he had a piece of metal stuck in his
Really?
finger that turned into a blister, but it wasn't that.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he's doing good.
Yeah.
He worked on my 65 too.
Yeah.
So,
did a lot of the interior stuff.
But Tom did that. You know, I think he grew from there, blew up, and. But I also think, like a lot of us, I said, you know, who influenced us, who helped us, supported us. His dad comes from that realm too, right?
From the custom truck world and the lowrider.
Yeah, and his dad did an amazing car show. Would host an amazing.
The Azalea show. Yes.
Which.
Azalea Festival.
Yes, which to me that was another one and that I would always kept in my list of like, if I can win an award at the Azalea Festival, it'd be pretty cool because the guys that judge are mini truck guys.
Right.
And so that's when I got to meet the Stevensons. Yeah. And everybody else. It was part of Synergy, right?
Right.
And I was still going there, not yet RA, but but. It was so much. That show was so popular that so much so guys from back east would drive out. Yeah. One day, Jerry Lewis from Relaxed Atmosphere in Tennessee pops up with 3 other guys, and they're like, you know, in their Tennessee accent, we just decided to hop in the car and drive out here for this show. Yeah. And we're gonna go home later on tonight. But that's how cool that show was. So I think that you can tell any of the guys from the Lowrider clubs, like they were there, they showed up in force to this show, because you'd have the truck guys, you had Volkswagen guys. But then you'd have the lowrider guys with the 30s and 40s cars, and then the modern day lowriders. Right. Mm-hmm. But they all knew who Tom was in one way or another, because if you said, "Oh, Tom is Mr. McWeeney's son," right, and they'd be like, "Oh," so I think that he, you know, Tom was supported a lot of the stuff that his dad did, right, with Sultans and all the other stuff. So,
well, and that's when he started doing the relaxing with Kustoms Inc. or Relaxing After Dark, or
the Gorilla cruise knife that started because of
the pandemic and stuff.
We locked down.
But that's he would have our guys coming out and the mini truck guys, but then a lot of the guys from the Sultans would come out. So you had a little bit of everything. Yeah. And that's what was always cool about the Grand National Roadster Show too, was having a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And now they're doing the truck show, and so it's really cool to they're honoring him and honoring, this was the last show that he went to. Yes. That we all were at with last year.
So a year ago, we all entered our trucks. Mm-hmm. And we came here, he came strong, he brought the Pop 72, and He at first he was kind of like, no,
he was hesitant because he wanted
hesitant.
to repaint it and wanted it
Yes.
nicer because he drove it every day.
He drove it every day.
Every day.
Yeah, let's stop with that one. He drove
Yeah.
it every day,
Yeah.
right? And
Not many of us can handle that, but
Right.
none of us had the ability I mean, honestly, from me looking at even you guys, it's like you and him, you guys have the ability, like, I can fix that chip, you know, and it's just literally, you know, for you guys, it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
Some of us, it's like, I'm driving, I'm putting like blue tape on the nose because I don't want my pinstriping to get chipped.
Right.
And people laugh, but I'm like,
You're like, yeah, I don't know what I can do to.
You know what though, you
fix
guys,
it if I need
that's
to.
you're right. It's because of knowledge. Because to me, it's happened so many times. I mean, I wrestled with Jason's hood last week, and I burned it 4 times. And
You
I was
didn't
like,
tell me that. No, it's good.
hey,
but
well,
but I was like, I can fix it.
Yeah.
right. How about Tom when he wrestled with my brother-in-law Alfonso's Mazda in that
my
hood?
God.
That hood for
Oh
what,
my
like
God.
I
5
thought we
times?
needed to take that hood to a priest.
I know, right?
I have a big piece.
Yes.
And I treasure that piece now
Yeah,
because he said, who wants this? You know, and everybody kind of cracked up because we have our little group chat, right?
Right.
For the club. And he every time it's like, well, we were almost there. And all of a sudden there's a big chunk of paint.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
And I know it was beating him up, but
Yeah.
he took it in stride. He
Yeah.
was very professional about it. And he was like, I'll just repaint it. And we're like,
That's with paint. I mean, we always joked around. I mean, Tom and I would always joke around with this. It's just paint.
yeah.
You can just sand it off and start over. You know, it's different than like a block window, you know, a rod window in a block or something like that. That's junk.
He kind of told me that when he added the graphics on the black Suburban because, you know, it's the original paint from
Right.
'93,
Right.
and it's lifting. I said, what can we do to fix this? He goes, let's add graphics and pinstriping.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do it. And then he goes, and if it doesn't work, we used to sand it down and redo it. I'm like, no, but it's the original paints down there. I want that to survive. At this point, I might as well repaint it. And he goes, you want to? No.
Yeah.
He's like, it's just paint.
I mean,
Wheel it back.
Look, I can say that paint to live to paint definitely is a Tom segment or saying. I mean, that's something that we were always into, just making something look better or looking newer or looking different. And I think the wonderful thing about Tom was his dad did give him that education of here's a lowrider style, here's a cruiser style, but then also make it your own style.
Yeah.
And Tom did that with his art, with all of his art.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom's favorite art to him, for people that didn't know, Tom loved to paint girls.
Yes.
And to a point where his wife didn't even like it. His wife was a little offended for a while.
Right.
But Tom would sit in there and he would hand paint girls. And you know what? Some of them at first, they didn't look like girls.
No.
Right?
Faces are tough to paint.
Faces are tough to
Faces
paint.
are sort of
Hands
tough to
are very
paint,
tough to
yeah.
paint. Eyeballs are tough to paint.
They were spectacular from the neck down.
Well, he had
I'm not
this-
gonna lie.
he
That's
had this
That's
down,
all he was
right?
worried about.
So
But again, too, what I loved about Tom was I kept encouraging him.
Yeah, he
because
just
he
kept
kept
going
saying
for
like,
it.
I'm gonna master this.
So I'm assuming that you probably got the same pictures, probably text to you, Instagram.
Those were called reference photos.
Exactly.
Reference photos.
So, you know, there'd be some times that I'd be sitting there, right? And, you know, we're watching TV, and that's when I finally started going through my phone, and I'm opening
And
up
you would
Tom's
get-
messages,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I know Maria would look over like,
What are you looking
doing?
at?
Yeah.
what you looking at there? This is one of Tom's future models.
Right. For reference.
Reference photos.
This is
Yes.
what Tom wants to. And then she would look and go, "Yeah, that's a curvy girl. That's Tom's style."
And now, you guys, what's really hilarious is that he gifted a few of his creations to some of the inspirations.
Inspirations?
Yes, inspirations. And some of these inspirations are probably not the women that you would share with your significant other that you're looking at.
Right.
These certain inspirations.
Unless they know Tom. Maria knows.
Right.
My wife knows Tom and would be like,
But the greatest part about it is that these fancy ladies, as we'll call them, would comment
Models.
back.
They're models.
Models.
Yes.
Would comment back on such how they felt immortalized that someone actually painted a version of them.
right? I think that.
I said that as nice as I possibly could.
Georgia was very appreciative of it.
Georgia
That girl,
was-
Georgia,
yeah,
that
yeah.
she's in the lowriders and mini trucking.
Yeah.
She's super cool.
But that one, Tom, knowing her though, that one was tamed down.
Yes.
There was a little bit of little discretion.
She was very tamed down.
Yes.
But no, I think that it's interestingly enough, like you said, he gifted him.
Yeah.
He was very kind, very, like I said, the cruise night, that was all him like, hey guys, I'm bored. And
Right.
I think we need to do something
Yeah, we need to
about
get together.
it. Let's
Yeah.
all go park at the parking lot over there.
Well, I'll tell you guys
And-
that one too.
And
Okay.
for me, I appreciated that. You know, I think in the club I'm referred to as, you know, either Papa Juan. In Spanish, they call me Mero Mero or whatever. And so I kind of learned to accept that
Right.
role. And so I tend to be a little bit more serious.
Right.
And I run things like a business. And then Tom brought that.
Yeah,
And so
a little
Tom,
more of the fun
let's face it, Tom was
side.
our favorite because of that.
Right.
Right? Because if Tom comes into the room, it was going to be a good time.
Good time,
Juan comes into the room, Juan's here, behave. And I'll be like, and
Yeah.
it gave me a complex sometimes. Like I could be fun too, you know.
God damn it.
And,
I know.
and so,
I know.
but Tom, in that infinite style of just wanting to do stuff, he did that. And
Look, he ran the idea by me. I go, you're an idiot. All you're going to do is create problems for yourself because all you're going to do is everyone's going to want something from you, and why would you want to do that? He goes, I drive past that parking lot every single day on my way to work, and I see a car show there, and I want to have a car show. And I went, Tom, you're a better man than I am because I'm not going to even help you.
yeah.
And I flat out told him that.
Yeah, and I think that maybe he didn't necessarily like come to us right away either.
Mm-hmm. He wanted to do it on his own.
Yeah,
he
he
did.
goes, I'm doing this.
He
because
really did.
I did reach out to him later. I go, would you like for us to support you?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we're going to support you no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you
But
want
you
the
want the help,
club's
you want
input?
the-
Or is this a Tom show? Or is this a Tom and relaxed atmosphere? Is this a Tom and something? Because I didn't want to. I come in as I have to look out because you know you're always going to get that nudge. Hey, what's he doing?
Honest.
But he said, I think we just need to do this, Juan. And I said, okay.
You know, it's funny. I, on purpose, stayed away from it because I knew that he was so passionate about doing it that I didn't want people to say, oh, well, you had Marcel and Jason help you guys.
Yeah.
So I told him, I go, Tom, I support you, but I'm not even going to go to it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. Like for me, it was like, so this is yours, and so you start at 7, I show up at 7. but
Right.
You get there at 6.
And that's your deal. Yeah.
And he was, I'll make it work. And I go,
Yeah.
I just don't want to step on your toes.
Yeah.
Right. So I would show up, and hey, at least he showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but then eventually, as with anything, that if you do it right, and the people will come. Right?
They will.
You know, it's
He's getting
people
a little
come.
bigger and more
Tom
popular.
was the greatest
Yeah.
host because Tom did the smartest thing. He knew that the one thing that people want is just recognition that you got a cool car.
Yeah.
So when him and Craig got together to do the top 10 awards,
Yeah.
to me, again, I was like, Tom, I'll help you paint him, but that's a great idea because you're going to walk around and there's no points, there's no judges. It's just Tom thinks your car
Didn't
is cool.
announce it.
Boom.
Yeah, you got
He
the seal of
didn't-
approval.
He didn't
Yeah, he
announce
didn't
it,
even
right?
announce
The
it.
guys would get in their car and be like,
What's that?
Yep.
And there got to be a point where people were like, hey, I'm here for my award. And Tom's like, you got to earn it.
yeah.
And you didn't tell me
And-
about that. Like,
and-
hey, these guys are asking for him.
So, interestingly enough, as with anything, you know, like when we were doing Relaxing in SoCal,
Yeah.
we already knew that the mini truck scene had already diminished a bit.
Yeah.
And the sport truck scene had also diminished. So to do a show successful, you had to blend in a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even then, when Tom started to get involved with it and started to become, again, a very active member in Relaxed Atmosphere, and I said, we're going to do this show. I like your help. You know, 'cause somebody else created it.
Yeah.
We kind of just took it and grew from it.
Yeah.
Right? And we had somebody like Eric Harbor that was the business. You had somebody else. We had New York Mike that was the good one that could bring stuff in.
For all the, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
had somebody
Knew the
we had
logistics.
Robbie helped us in the early years. Robbie Azevedo again.
Yeah.
Well, on the artistic side, you had Robbie. And then we had Tom.
Yeah.
I was just more of my wife and I can go to every show every weekend
And
throughout
that
the
helped,
year.
though. But that helped.
Promote
and,
it.
Yes.
and promote
Yes.
it and pass out
Get
a
people
flyer.
in there.
Yes.
And so, but I would go, again, my thing is I like going to Lowrider shows. I like going to custom shows now because that's a big thing these days, right? Or even there was a time where those events like going to the Moon Eyes open house.
Right.
Yeah.
Or those events that were with patina cars or the jalopies or those that grew big, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd go to those shows. Hey, I got a flyer for you.
Right.
Aren't you guys like a mini truck club? No.
Yeah.
I got a 65 Suburban sitting over there.
Yeah,
Right.
And
Show's
then-
open to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. We got this car. Oh, okay. So I kept bringing that. So when Tom decides to do this, I'll go to all this stuff all over again. But there wasn't, right? Because it
Yeah,
was
it was during the
2020.
pandemic
Right.
So
lockdown.
then we're
yeah.
like, the only way you can do is text something.
Yeah.
And I was texting friends that my good friend Jose, Jose and Stephanie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was in Lifestyle, Stephanie Bueno. Hey, we're going to do this cruise night. She'd be like, I'll be all about it, Juanito. And then they would call their friends. And then these guys were showing up with lowriders, right?
Yeah.
When there was a guy that lived on the other block from German folks. When I saw like a handful of those guys coming in, I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we got
all the
VW
Volkswagen
royalty in the
guys,
house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Shit. And then
Like
then,
some of the
do you
Sultan's guys
Yeah.
connecting
Sultans,
through his
right?
dad and
Yeah.
all that.
When
Some of
those
the hot
guys
rod
started
guys
showing up.
Yep.
Do you remember there was one day, I don't know if you were there, I'm sure you were there, that
Yeah.
there was a bunch of Model A's sitting there in the parking lot, like stock Model A's.
Yeah.
I remember.
And
a
I
few
was
of
sitting
those,
there looking going, they must have had a little get together, right? And so I go walk over there thinking, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. There's going to be a bunch of truck guys. He goes, no, we're here for it.
For
This
that,
is
yeah, right.
the Relaxing with Kustoms Inc, right? I'm
Right.
like,
You're like, what the hell? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
we park over there. And it was like 5 like stock Model A's, like, right?
Yeah.
The horseless carriages.
Yeah.
Things. And it was like,
Yeah.
Not
But
hot
that's-
rodded out or anything,
So-
but like,
Go ahead.
the cops did show up the first one.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
cops
I
came.
was there.
Pulled up, and he goes, what are you guys up to? And Tom's like, we don't have nothing else to do. And we have our cool car, so we just want to hang out here. And, there's no music, there's nothing. We're just going to hang out. He goes, as long as you keep the other guys that are
Yeah.
doing burnouts.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
our
And
flyer
we
says
did-
no burnouts and no asshats.
Yeah.
And they're like,
perfect.
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
And then
And
they,
we did have a guy trying to do donuts, and we kicked him out. So
Yes.
yeah, the guy in
and
the
the guys
Mustang.
would pull in
Yeah.
in all the Mopars and be like, no, this isn't for us. Because we'd all give them the dirty looks.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what
they're
do you
Mopar
want?
guys.
That's yeah.
What do you,
Yeah.
what,
All
what
the
are you
ta-
here for?
No street
But-
takeovers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hanging out and having
Yeah.
a good time. But yeah, one quick question to wrap it up. If you had to, I know we're going to be picking the pinstriping award, the Tom McWeeny Memorial Pinstriping Award. I've kind of already talked about that a little bit, and got to get
Yeah.
Carrie's input and the family
Yes,
input.
I want her to. I'm hoping she gets here soon. So, listen, I've been coming to the Grand National Roadster Show since they moved to Pomona.
Right.
I take notice of when they do their awards, and they started to do these memorial awards for the greats, right?
Yeah.
They do the Blackie Award, they do a Barris Award, Sam Foos, they do all these awards, right? And
Yeah.
that's how these guys immortalize
right.
their heroes.
And I mean, you look at from America. There's the Amber Award, obviously, but the Slonaker Award is
the original
Al Slonaker.
named after
Easy,
the
yeah.
original promoter
Right.
of the
Right.
show. So it's keeping that name
Yeah.
and keeping that person that contributed so much
Right.
alive.
So, fast forward, Relaxed Atmosphere was when we were the first mini truck club to
Truck.
bring mini trucks. We brought trucks.
And modern, newer
Yeah.
trucks.
Modern trucks. We
yeah.
brought 6 vehicles.
Right.
And we parked. And we brought our trucks. And we did get a lot of
Yeah. Like, huh?
we parked next to Lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Lifestyle to me, royalty in the
Yeah.
lowrider
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in there was a painter that I knew. I saw him and I go, I know that guy. And I go to talk to him. I go, hey, my name is Juan. I met you a while back. It was Danny D.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great painter.
Yeah.
And he kind of, he gets this a lot. Yeah, I go, I used to enter my mini truck at your shows in L.A.
Like, oh yeah. Who?
His
yeah.
demeanor changed.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A
And
little
he was
different.
Yeah, because
like,
he knows,
hey.
all right, there's a
Yeah.
connection from
So
back in the day. Yeah.
he was like, I still talk to these guys. My club, New Minis. I'm like, really? Cool deal. I should stay in touch with you, sure. The truck scene is still, look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, this is awesome. And the whole weekend, smiles and stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Right.
And they did. They brought their club back. They brought the scene back. And I would, interact with Tom and tell Tom, hey, dude, check. That's Danny D. He goes, oh yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah, I would
shop,
say
this and
they're,
that.
yeah,
So,
the painter community.
Yeah.
So as of now, I know this won't get aired till after this award's probably handed out. We have a truck in mind here.
We have it in mind right now.
We have in mind a truck that's here that was painted by Danny D. Mm-hmm. Danny D sadly also passed away. It's been 4 years.
Right.
And I hope I'm right. I think it is 4 years.
It's about that, yeah.
And, that world got rocked hard, too, when he passed away.
It certainly did.
He passed away, and those guys brought a mini truck he was working on here. And it's not the truck of choice, but they brought a truck. They're keeping his memory alive over there.
They should.
They got like 6 trucks or so lined up that Danny D had his hands on.
Yeah.
There is this beautiful 720 over there that he painted and striped. And I know for a fact that Tom liked that truck. Loved that truck.
Yeah.
And there's several things here that are very well
have some nice
pinstriping.
But
and we sat there and looked at them and we're like,
would Tom pick it?
Would Tom pick that? No. This one I know Tom would pick. And I told you, so I send the message in the group chat, hey, what do you guys think of this? My phone's been buzzing in my pocket, so I'm assuming that's what it is.
We'll see what.
So I think it's where we're leaning, and it warms my heart. I'm containing emotions.
Right.
Tom was a good dude, like I said, because without Tom's involvement and relaxed atmosphere in these years, I don't think the club would be where it's at.
Do you know what Tom did for this club now is he bridged the old to the new.
Yes.
Because, I mean, look, I started hanging around Tom in 1990.
Yeah.
And that was like synergy time. That was, and I was looking to get into a car club, but I didn't like all that sergeant at arms stuff.
Yeah.
And Tom
you didn't
was
like the rules.
Tom was the first guy to go, come hang out with us, we're cool.
Yeah.
And just like that too. Not like, you're going to just come hang out with us, we're cool.
Yeah. You know that you've been to a lot of our club dinners, or a lot of our club functions.
Right.
I think I've been told, hey, who's that guy in your club?
I know. I'm always the plus one.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like,
Tom was our +1 at SEMA, and he's the
I'm always
+1 for the club.
For Relax.
Right? So, and I honestly feel that, like I said, there's been times where I'll say something, this is an old school show, and if I brought it up, and then if Tom said, yeah, perfect. So I go, thanks, Tom. And I would, honestly, he was between him and Jeff. There's another Jeff Sherrill with Auto Sauce. I would always tell them, guys, I go, I'm getting so much older. I've been doing this for so long. I need some help.
Yeah.
I go, I love helping you guys. My wife's in there with it. I go, but let's help. And Tom was like all about it.
Yeah.
Tom occupied 28 hours of a 24-hour day.
Yes.
In a very relaxed,
I was going to say on a very even keel.
Was it maybe more of the Hawaiian time, or I just saw this Indian show or a show the other day, Dark Winds with the Indian film, the novel.
Yeah.
They kept referring to Indian time or Navajo
No,
time.
that's
you were talking about earlier about painter time.
Yes,
painter time. Well,
painter time. So we'll call it painter time, artist time.
But in all honesty, and I'm not just saying that because he's not here, but he did keep himself very busy.
Both of us have a mentality of, if I'm sitting down watching something, I could be doing something.
Yeah.
So both of us got along real well because we would do that. I would go over to his house and sand on things for hours. Hours.
I'm not so much so. I can tell you. I know you do. You keep a very busy schedule.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that sometimes I want to text you and check in or say hi, but most of the time it's because, do you know somebody? I go, I do know somebody. I know that person, and it's you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll think, fuck, why am I now sending him a text when I need something when I should have texted him to say hello?
Nah, it's fine.
But the majority of the time is I know for a fact that I'm a busy person.
Right.
I do my job.
Yeah.
I do this.
Yeah.
And I try to maintain a household. So sometimes I'll get messages randomly from people, and I sit there and go, but there are some people that I keep in a circle that I go, I haven't heard from that guy in a while.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that was the most important thing that I wanted to share when Tom passed was, you guys got to remember, he wanted to do that car show to hang out.
Yeah.
And it was his major motivation was, dude, we should just all hang out together.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we just like, look at that parking lot's perfect.
Yeah.
We can all
it's
just
kind of an excuse to
roll
get
up.
together for
right.
it. Yeah.
So that was kind of, and even too, the week he passed, we went to Portello's, of course, to get something to eat. And he goes, I want to come back to this place.
Yeah.
I like this place. And I was like, well, you promote it, bro. It's your deal.
We had a meeting there.
Yeah.
We don't have club meetings, but there
Right.
was enough things happening. This was when Tom was still around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty
It was
much like
before
a
this
month
show.
before.
Yeah. He was serious
this
about getting
show
on. Yeah.
last year.
Yeah,
Right.
so I said,
We
hey
went
guys,
back to
I
that same
think we
parking
need
lot.
Yeah.
to have a meeting.
Yeah.
I got an idea, let's go there.
Right.
And everybody said, okay. And it was very cool
Yeah.
because, I mean, it's just, like, again, I think it's, we did a lot of things for fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
We always do fun. This
Yes.
show, for example, this is a little different. This is upscale for us. We need this in the truck scene.
We
No, and
need
that's
this.
what. Yeah, I think
we do.
for-
We need this.
There needs to be that prestigious
Yes.
Yes.
show, an indoor show, kind
so
of
there's
again
one
for
high-end
just trucks.
show in the West Coast because I would love to see how other shows are doing so well back east.
Yeah.
I mean, we were doing a show. Relax Atmosphere. Jerry was doing All-Star event.
Right.
And it was an amazing show, right?
Yeah.
I never knew that kind of camaraderie. Like I felt like we didn't have that in the West Coast.
I think
West
too, 'cause
Coast
the
was
West
a
Coast,
dominance
there's-
of we can build something bitchin'. But the cool part of like just chilling,
Yeah.
like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That didn't exist at the truck jamborees.
No.
It existed
was-
at the runs, but the runs
Right.
were not
But that was party time.
shows.
That was party.
That's because
Yeah.
it was a party.
Yeah.
So I felt that the East Coast blended the party and the show, and it got really fun. And I see how big these shows are, and I'm like going, we need the other
Yeah. Yeah.
rest of
Well,
the.
it's.
I mean, there's this show right now. There's a couple guys here from Japan.
Right.
Good friends of mine that are truck guys, Shigeki and Kenta, right? And they're loving it, and I'm all it's
Little
still
smaller right
growing.
now, right.
They're like, no, this is amazing.
It's like
Yeah.
comparatively to the
80s,
truck
90s,
scene there,
old
yeah.
guys, and they're like, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm hoping that, like, they just did the Triple Crown of Rotting, right? And the trucks there were dominant,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
One right next to us.
Right?
Yeah.
Even the VW.
Right.
I'm partial to that VW because it's on Porsche alloys.
Yeah.
It's the epitome of
Checked
what
all
it
the
would have
boxes
been,
of
right?
Right.
that
But-
style.
And it's beautiful. I'm partial to it. He was there.
Yeah.
And he told me, he goes, there was 6 of us from there that took top awards that are all from California. And I was like,
Yeah.
because it's cool.
Well, it's
we're
like-
all competitive in
Yeah.
any nature, but
That's
it's
a, yeah,
cool.
it's
And
a
I would-
competition
and
show
I hope that
at the end of the day.
it merges its way here. And like I said, we had a meeting there. And I told him, I said, we should go support this show.
Yeah.
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 And he was like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Right.
And sadly, he passed away a week later.
Right.
He got a plaque. He got a plaque
Yeah.
that day.
Which he was so happy about.
Yes.
He was so that one was funny because that one I think he was more happier about that because the truck to him was not. He didn't want to bring it to the show.
No.
So
It
to him,
was
he's like, I don't even want to show this thing.
Yeah.
I think you guys took it to TMI,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So,
they
yeah, we
saw
took
it
it
at
to the-
TMI
Yeah.
and said, why isn't this? This is a
That's-
relaxed truck.
right.
Why haven't I not? Because they
Yeah.
already knew.
No,
that,
Kevin Doyle did because
Yes.
it was.
Yeah.
It was like a couple weeks before, and Tom was back and forth on wanting to bring it, and Kevin
and
was like, "What about this one?" And we're like, "We'll make
Tom,
it." We'll-
so then we pushed Tom, right?
Yeah.
You guys told him. I said,
Yeah.
dude, they
Yeah,
want your
everybody
truck
was
there.
pushing
I got
him
a text
to do
message,
it.
bro. He goes, and I think his wheels kind of like, maybe I can fix it. I'm like, dude, they like it just the way
That's
it is.
what Yeah.
I think that's part of it. What it was is that everyone was saying.
slow
outside
down.
people were like, "It's good.
Yeah,
it's cool.
good.
Don't worry
And
about
he
it."
came, he parked it, he cleaned it, and he was on cloud 9.
Yeah. He was stoked. He was really stoked.
Like I noticed it.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that he was pretty happy.
Yeah.
He had a fantastic week that
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. He really did.
And I think he left us on a high note.
And it
Yeah,
was good
yeah.
having him, at least here. We were all able to kind of get together and hang out one last time, if
Yeah.
you will.
And
So
I think, what we want to do now is immortalize him as the guy he was in our scene
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
I reached out to him. I said, we'd love to continue to help you guys. We want to see the show grow. We have one request. What's that? We want to do an award and to memorialize Tom.
Right.
And they said, you got it.
That's yeah.
And I was like, great. And I go back to everybody. I went back to all you guys to say they're up for this.
Yeah.
And I told Craig, Craig, hey, they want to do an award, so I already signed you up.
Right. Yeah.
Craig was like,
you already roped
okay.
everybody into
right.
it.
Oh, and I hadn't seen any likes of the award till this morning.
It looks really nice. Yeah, I
He
saw
was
it.
like-
It's cool.
He opened it because even last night I was like, do I ask? Do I not? Craig, Craig's simple guy. He's cut
Right.
and dry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not gonna bug him.
Right.
I trust him. This morning he goes, hey.
Take a look.
And then I go, hey, by the way, I got this. He goes, what do you have in mind? He goes, I got some rules. And I'm like, oh, of course you do.
Yeah.
And he was like, and then he goes, just somebody that's, person that really, maybe Tom knew and it has to be, he wanted to, I said, well, we got this truck in mind. He was like, that's what I had in mind. Holy crap. All right, I guess we're on the same page. And
Right.
I appreciate that they said, yes, you guys can memorialize. They took it one step further.
I was going to say they went
And
even
his
beyond
truck
that.
is dead center.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
So
next to the winner of last year's.
Yeah, and then beyond that is Steve Stillwell's F100, who
Yes.
also recently
so
passed
on
away.
each side there are
Some memorial for two
Big
people
guys
that
in our
had
industry.
a
Yeah.
lot to do with.
I'm Mexicano, and I believe in all that stuff and the angels and so forth and whatnot. And there's the wings. There's the guy in the center. That's the winner.
Speaking of that part, I think we got to talk about the center caps on the wheel as well. That's been falling off multiple times.
I think he's messing
it's
with
just
us.
Tom going.
I was here
There you
really
go.
late last night, trying to fill in some voids, making some phone calls, and I'm standing over there and I'm looking, and everybody had left, and I was like, I gotta go take a picture of it, and I gotta go have my moment now over there. And I looked, talk, then I finally turned around to walk over there, and I'm like, the hubcap fell off.
Again, after it had already fallen off on their drive
Yes,
over here to the show.
His son Justin and Carrie were very nervous about bringing the truck here.
Yeah.
And they called me. We're almost there, but the hubcap fell off. And I was like, in my head, we'll put the show board right in front.
Yeah, you can cover it up or
See?
yeah,
See?
yeah.
Don't worry.
Same
worry
thing
about
I
it.
said when I walked up. I go, where's the hubcap at? Put the showboard in front of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, no, we found it.
Yeah.
It
But
just keeps
is it
falling off.
tacoed?
Yeah, I
Is
know.
it-
That's
Yeah,
the same thing I thought,
that's
too.
what I would've
right,
figured,
right.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they
There's
put it on
yeah.
because I was busy over here parking everybody, doing stuff. All of a sudden, the truck was in its place.
Yep.
The sun was coming in through the windows, and again, I'm that kind of guy, and I was like, but then all of a sudden the hubcap falls off, and I was like, "Hi, Tom."
Okay, we'll probably wrap this up too after this, but this is a pretty funny thing because anybody that knew Tom knows Carrie. And the relationship of Tom and Carrie has been great for many, many years, but Carrie knew that that the truck thing was the majority of his life. So she, of course, would kind of always maybe not be as supportive, like you're going to go to another show, you're going to do another car show, you're going to do another striping event. So yesterday when I saw her wiping down the front bumper of that airbag truck where she is on her hands and knees scrubbing the bumper, I walk up behind her and I go, Tom would just love to have seen this.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're sick. And I go, no, not because you're on your hands and knees.
Oh.
Because you're scrubbing,
Because you're cleaning the
because you're
truck.
cleaning his truck that you couldn't
You now
stand.
got stuck with it.
Right? And she goes, don't tell anybody.
I know. When I caught her too cleaning the dash and everything,
Yep.
she goes,
It's a lot of work. So,
"Yeah, this is."
No,
so
she's
hard."
like, yeah, I never thought I would
Yep,
do this.
yep.
This is always his
and
thing.
And because, again, too, the guys are so gracious here to put out carpet for that thing.
Yeah.
The thing that Carrie, I think, loved the most is because at home, we would always joke with her because Carrie is the cleanest person I know.
Yes. She goes, I need a vacuum.
She was
Yeah,
so
she did
tweaked
ask
out
for
about
a vacuum.
vacuuming. And then, of course, she got the vacuum and I helped her plug it in. And she's like, Marcel, I'm doing my favorite thing in the world.
Cleaning.
And sure enough.
And I think she found a little bit
She
of
did.
this
I watched
ambiance.
her. I watched her looking at the truck and vacuuming. And I think she had some peace.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of
Yeah.
this is good.
I'm looking forward to the family being here. Like I said, going back to the other events that John Buck puts on,
Yeah.
Grand National Roadshow,
Sacramento
And
Autorama
then,
now.
Yeah.
up there too. They have their relatives come up.
Yeah.
And I told her,
Yeah.
I said, this isn't a relaxed atmosphere thing. This isn't the show promoter thing. This is for you guys.
Right.
Whether you tell
it's
me
Tom
how much
McWeeny Memorial.
you tell me how
We're
much
helping
hands
with
you want
all of it.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell me, like, I planned that when she gets here today, that we walk over to show her this truck, tell her the story of Danny. She's gonna see that they have their
And
little.
she'd met Danny.
yeah, she
I'm
met Danny.
sure.
Yeah,
for
she met
yeah.
She
so. they know?
We did this. Well, we did a celebration of life for Tom at El Dorado Park.
Yeah.
They did their
They
celebration
did the
of
Danny
life for
D
him there.
at the same
The
park. Yeah.
barbecues are there. So she kept she kept hearing the
There's a
name.
connection
So
for sure. Yeah.
I think that, and I hope that in closing that she comes up, the kids come up on the stage, we'll be there to support her, but
Yeah.
that she either says a few things, but if not, she'll be there with us.
Yeah.
And this will be the beginning of many. I
Yeah.
said, I hope this show continues to grow so that we can continue to be there for our friend. And sadly, it's just as we grow older and we have many more. I'm hoping they do maybe something for Danny D for paint.
Yeah.
Tom for pinstriping, and as the years go by, again, Sean Mahaney, great fabricator.
Great fabricator, right?
passed
Yeah.
away.
Right.
Doing something, engineering or
Yeah.
something.
People
Right.
like Steve and
Yeah.
people that kept the truck scene alive,
Right.
that provided outlets for us, whether it was, magazines, fabricators, painters that kept
Shops, cruise night,
that
Yeah.
heard our
shows.
crazy ideas. When Courtney passed away, I went to speak at his eulogy, and I made a reference to the skating world and Dogtown skaters, and they had a photographer, right, that always followed him around. He's alive to this day. I think his name's Jason Friedman or something like that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
chronicled their stories in the magazines.
Right.
And I said that about Courtney. He chronicled our life, right? And again with Tom.
Yeah.
He was one of those that we can come up to him with the crazy idea and be like, I want this and that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been a tough one to fill.
Yep.
That's for damn sure. Well, thank you for everything you do for us too, because
Yeah.
a lot
You've
of
been
this.
the organizer of a
I
lot
was
of
going to
this
say
stuff.
you've been the organizer of this, so this has really helped us out a lot as truck guys.
Just
Yeah.
just elevating
Being
the
able to
truck.
have that conversation between you and John Buck and Kevin Doyle, that does make this happen. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having fun doing it. It's from organizing, relaxing, and SoCal show. When I was in One of a Kind, we were doing shows at a ballpark to the relaxing shows, to helping Tom in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Doing this, I approached you. I said, you guys, stick with this, help out,
Yeah.
I see. I spoke to somebody from a wheel company, I won't say a name, but, stopped me. He goes, I hear you're like very involved with this, and I know all the relaxed guys. How do I get my foot in the door? I'm like, I'll put you in touch with John.
But
Get
involved.
Sometimes I think some people get intimidated.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they
But
they see it as like, the guys with the mini trucks. Well, that's a roadster show. No, it's a truck show for us.
Yeah. No, and that is what's really cool about this show, and what I've always liked about the Grand National Roadster Show was the variety. And even though this is all trucks, we're seeing a lot of that.
A lot of variety.
The mini trucks, the C-10s, the classic trucks.
I
all
feel
that,
they do, instead of a builder of the year, they're doing the trendsetter.
Yeah,
right.
They chose Dino.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I threw his name in the mix at the very get-go. They're like, who do you feel for this thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, so how are you guys picking? We want somebody that was influential in the truck scene.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
He created this event in the desert in November that after SEMA, when nobody else is going to go to any shows, they're done for the year.
Right.
He's getting 9,000 plus trucks now to show up.
It was all the good guys. Scottsdale wasn't allowing. They had their year cut off.
Yes.
And so a lot of the C10 guys, square bodies and stuff like that, OBS trucks, couldn't go.
Yeah.
And so it was like hey, let's just hang out, and then tomorrow in the morning we'll cruise to the Good Guys Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And that went from 12 people to 9,000.
Yeah.
in a little over 10 years.
So they're going to be selecting our people that were they want a trendsetter.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're selecting people like that.
Right.
This is going to be the event for the truck guys.
Right.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the case. So, but yeah, Juan, thank you for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
I know, obviously, RA Juan Trevino on Instagram, RA SoCal on Instagram.
I even do
bit of
Japanese
everything else.
Custom
Truck Mag.
Japan. I send to Japan our lifestyle. I share it in Japan. I send it to them, and because I think our scene's pretty special. It's pretty unique.
Yeah,
it is.
Definitely.
It's pretty cool. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.